Okay, we are live. Let's see if anybody's on here yet before I start. I don't see anybody yet. Okay, maybe a little bit early, so I will wait. But as soon as you do log on, if you want to go ahead and like it or say hello or something, before I know that you are there, that would be great. It looks like there's 2 people watching it here so far. 3 and 4. So I hope everybody is doing good today. Give it 2 more minutes and then I'll start with this little presentation here. I have already pre-made the dough because I'm sure you guys didn't want to see me kneading the big old ball of dough for 10-15 minutes. Hey Evan, what's going on? So yeah, the dough is, well, I'll go ahead and explain that at 6 o'clock on the dot. That way everybody is here. But I did pre-make some of the stuff. I pre-chopped some of the stuff just for time's sake. Alex, little brother, what's up? So I'll be moving kind of fast, so this might not be one of them videos where you can work along and cook along with it. But the good thing about live is what I understand is after it's over, it's still on Facebook that you can go back and watch it. So here we go. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. It is 6 o'clock. So I have already pre-made the dough due to the fact that it takes a while to knead it because I ain't got a stand mixer. So if you do have a stand mixer, that is the best way to use it. So, yeah, it's just basically not hot water, but warm water, about 110 degrees, and 2 cups of flour. I would start with just adding half a cup of the water at a time and then mixing it and kneading it until you get to the consistency you want. The consistency is about like a good pizza dough. So once you get to that type of dough, you'll take and you make it into a big old ball, you place it into a bowl. I always put a little oil on my hands, olive oil or whatever, and I rub the dough, and that keeps it from getting a hard crust while it's setting. It needs to set like for 30 minutes before you can use it. You put it in the bowl and you just put a towel over the bowl and set it on the counter someplace and let it set while I'm sideways. Am I sideways, really? Okay, let me, is anybody else seeing me sideways? Okay, I'll turn the camera just 1 second. Am I still sideways? Okay, will I turn the camera over? Anybody? Am I still sideways? Straight up and down? Vertical, horizontal? Okay. So if I'm sideways, just let me know. Anyway, so also the dough, 2 cups of flour, water about, like I said, 105, 110, half a cup at a time. You just keep working that dough until it comes to a nice pizza dough consistency. Oil it, set it in a bowl with a towel over it, and let it set for 30 minutes. How do you get to the live stream? If someone can message Leslie and let her know that just go to my thing and I should be live on my Facebook page. She's asking how she gets to the live stream. What's that? Yeah, I made enough dough to make 3 batches. Goodness gracious. You are really getting on it, Alex. Okay. Anyway, so the ingredients for this, what I did first is I'm making the MoMo sauce while we are. Oh, hi Leslie. So I'm making the MoMo sauce before I mix the meat because it's a process, but just so you know that MoMo is not a Chinese sauce. It's more of a Tibetan from Nepal type sauce, but it goes good with dumplings. You can make it a nice soup and put the dumplings in and have like dumpling soup, or you could use it for a dipping sauce. It's all up to you, but But you guys have all the ingredients. So what I got here is I just got all the tomatoes and ginger and turmeric and the chili stuff in this little food processor here. I'm gonna be dry roasting the sesame and the cumin seeds. So anyway, so what I want to show you is for the garlic and the ginger, we need to make a paste out of it. I'm sure most people know how to do that, but just in case, I'm just going to show you. I want to show you this before I put it in the meat. That way, you guys would, if you don't know how, you'll see it. You just pretty much just chop up the garlic and the ginger. Just dice it up real good, minus some fingers. With the ginger, you want to get it just as thin as possible, or else you get chunks. And why you want to make a paste, you don't have to make a paste, but if you don't make a paste out of it and you throw it in your meat, you're going to end up eating your dumplings and find little chunks of ginger and garlic in there, and the flavor of the two really is not going to get through the meat. So you want to definitely make a paste out of it. So you just dice them all together, put them together, and just take a little salt. Not a lot, just enough to put some grinding surface in there. Give it another little chop through, and then you put it together and you just take the flat of your knife like that and just start on the end and just start pressing it in little bitty bunches. And the salt is going to grind that ginger and the garlic into a paste. And it's going to smell like you wouldn't believe, but just put it all back together and just keep doing it until you got a nice paste. And the salt's also going to bring the moisture out of the garlic and the ginger. As you can see, it's starting to make a nice paste. And so when you get to about like that, there is what you want, just a nice little mix up. You just throw it into your pork. In here I got a pound of pork, and here is the green onions, just 2 green onions. You want to chop them and dice them, all the onion, the whites and the green. You throw them into the pork. I also already pre-chopped the Napa cabbage. It looks like this, in case you haven't seen Napa cabbage, it looks like that. But I chopped it and diced it. As you can see, it's diced pretty fine. And I just put about a half a teaspoon of salt over it and gave it a good mix. As you can see, it's got a lot of water. So what we're going to do with that is we're just going to take it in our hands, make sure you got clean hands, and squeeze it. And you can see all the water coming out of there. That's just before we know how much liquid is in the meat, and because you don't want soup when you put it in a dumpling wrapper. And you just toss it in the meat. And you just put that in the dishes and feed it to the dogs. And here are the mushrooms I was talking about. They are shiitake. We buy them dried at the Asian market. And what you do is take how many you want and you just soak them in warm water for like an hour, and they become rehydrated and get really soft. Then you just take them out, and you want to wash them before you soak them. That way we're going to use the water in the meat. That way there's no dust and grime and stuff in the water. But anyway, you take them out, you chop them up. Sometimes I put them in a blender and I make like a mushroom soup out of it. But today I'm not, because I don't want to listen to that Vitamix. I'm just going to dice them really fine and then throw them in the meat along with the water that they were soaked in, about a half a cup of water. The sad part about making dumplings today is I don't get to eat them. They are not part of the current keto plan, so. But they can be frozen if you make too many, so just put them in a little bag, flour them, freeze them, you're good to go. That's it, and you just throw them in the meat. And in this bowl here is the water that I had. I'm going to put that in there now. It's about a half a cup of water. I know it seems kind of strange throwing water in meat, but for the dumplings, if you don't put water in the meat, it gets really tough when you cook it, and so it's not the best dumpling. And also what you're doing is when you're making a dumpling, you're putting the mushrooms and the soy sauce and everything in there, you're making sort of a soup base in that dumpling. So when you wrap your dumpling, use the water in Napa cabbage because of the salt. Yeah. So Leslie asked, is the water in the Napa cabbage because of the salt, and how long did I let it sit in there? Yeah, the salt, it draws all the water out of the Napa cabbage, because the Napa cabbage is like probably 90% water, and so that's just a little bit much. It also helps soften the cabbage, because when you're cooking the dumplings, you're boiling them. It helps everything is a little bit pre-cooked. But yeah, the salt brings it out of there, and I just put a little salt on there, and you let it set for like 15-20 minutes. So yeah, there's things that you want to prepare ahead of time. That way you can do that. Just squeeze that water out and throw it in there. And it sounds like there's a lot of salt involved in this, but actually after you put all the water in there and the cooking wine stuff in there, it dilutes it down a little bit. So yeah. So building on that is the mushrooms in there, the Napa cabbage in there, the mushroom water. We're sort of building a base in the meat because when you wrap the dumpling, when you cook it, it's going to start making juice inside of there. So you're going to have a little juice in there. You think you need to taste those dumplings as a comparison. Okay, Alex. Well. Okay, so yeah, this is this is the soy sauce that we use. It's a superior dark soy sauce. We buy it at the Asian market. It's called Pearl River Bridge. And how much I'm putting in here is on the instructions I sent you, but I have a tendency not to follow my instructions. But you want a good amount in there. And this is also the cooking wine. It's called Shaoxing rice cooking wine. We also buy that at the Asian market. It's 15% alcohol, but it is not for drinking. You drink this stuff and it will really do a number on you. And again, the amounts are in the little email thing I sent you with instructions. You toss that in there. And it sounds strange that it's fresh ground pork, really fatty pork, that I'm going to be adding oil to it. But trust me, if you don't add oil to it, because that's all going to cook out when you're cooking it, and if there's not extra oil, you're going to have dry meat. And so this is peanut oil. It's best for this. I mean, you can use any oil you want. I have tried olive oil and avocado oil. What's going on, Ben? I have seen all of that stuff and tried it all, and it just don't taste good. Peanut oil, corn oil is the best, and you're not eating a lot of it. So I know I got a gallon jug, but when I do my my Taiwan style fried chicken, I like to deep fry in this peanut oil. It gets it crispier. So anyway, you put some oil in there. Add a little extra oil in there. Some salt. Yeah, more salt. Usually for a pound of meat, what I found for this is a teaspoon of salt to the pound of meat works great. But everybody has different salt tastes. If you don't like a lot of salt in your food, then you can adjust that to your taste. And I use white pepper instead of black pepper because white pepper has a stronger flavor without the heat to it, in my opinion. Some people might think different, but, and of course I buy the white pepper at the Asian market too. All my spices come from the Asian market because, well, I usually use Asian spices. So you put some of that in there. And after you get all of that in there, the fun part comes along. You gotta mix the meat. And you can mix it with a spoon or whatever you want to mix it with. But me personally, I use 3 chopsticks. I pretty much use chopsticks for everything. But I just hold them in a little fork like that. I put it in the meat, and since you got all that liquid in there, you want to just start by mixing up until the liquid starts to absorb in there. And important with the meat when you're mixing it, only mix in one direction. The logic behind that is with the ginger and the garlic and the cooking wine and soy sauce, all of them acidic elements in there, it's breaking down the proteins in this pork, and they will start to come out in strings. And if you start doing this and doing that and doing that, it makes these little bitty hard BB-like balls in the meat. I don't know if you've ever eaten a hamburger or something and get, all of a sudden you bite something hard and you think it's a piece of your tooth, but it's a white and it's a little hard ball. Well, that is the proteins that's hardened up because all of that mixing around. And so if you do it this way and just in one direction, it'll just keep them nice and long and fibrous, and you won't get them little hard little nuggets in your meat and chip a tooth. So you just gotta, and you really gotta mix this meat up with these chopsticks, or you can even do this in a like a kitchen if you have one. Me, I don't have one, so I gotta do everything by hand. You want that mix to where it's really mixed. It usually takes, I mix it for like 5 minutes. It builds up the biceps. It's good for the shoulders. And as you mix it, you will see that it starts to get really pasty and it gets sort of thick. When it gets like that, you want to add a little bit more water to it because you want this meat to be, like I said, a little bit, not soupy, but very soft. Because that way when it cooks through. It don't get tough, and it makes that wonderful, wonderful juice that is in them dumplings. And so you just really keep mixing it. I know you guys just tuned in to see me mix this meat up, but and we're going to have a special guest here in a little while because when I show you how to make them, I'll admit I can't wrap a dumpling to save my life, and so Emily does all the wrapping. So she will be in here. Hey, looks like my big sister's watching. How you doing, sis? But anyway, I cannot wrap a dumpling to save my life. They look like something that a 3- and 4-year-old did in art class. So it's scary. They taste good, but seeing the meat is still not to where it needs to be. It's a little bit heavy and thick, so a little bit more water. And if you don't get it thin enough, you will have like a meatball in a dough wrapper, and it's not pleasant. So yeah, just a little history fact on dumplings. I like dumplings so much I actually researched them. I guess the story behind the dumpling, how they became about, is like 1800 years ago in northern China. They were having some kind of health epidemic, and it involved high fevers and frostbite and everything. And so this doctor, I guess he was one of the most famous Chinese medicine doctors at that time. His name was Dr. Shang. He took a bunch of mutton, mixed in some herbs and spices in there, wrapped it in dough, boiled it. And to each of the villagers he lived in, he'd give them 2 dumplings and a little bowl of broth. And I guess after that, you know, they started getting better with all that good stuff he was putting in the meat. And since then, you know, they've had dumplings, and now traditionally they are a New Year's feast. But it's just not about eating the dumplings. It is about family togetherness, because everybody gets around. No, I can't. Nope. I can't wrap a dumpling, Leslie. I could eat about 2 dozen of them at one sitting. But dumplings, yeah, in China, for Chinese New Year's, they are a big thing there. There is a lot of stuff like they're supposed to be made before midnight, because on New Year's, between like 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., that's the time when out with the old and in with the new comes. So they eat them between them time. But Emily's family don't do that. But New Year's, they do have a big dumpling gathering, and everybody makes dumplings. They get together. It's all about a family time of being together and doing things together. So yeah, that's just what I know on dumplings besides eating them. Okay, so the meat is good. It's like that. You can see it's not soupy, but well, probably can't see it. But there you go. It's like that. You can see the fiber strings in there. That's what you want. There's no little balls that's going to break your teeth. And so I'm going to set that aside for like 10 minutes just to let that marinate, all the season, everything get into the meat. And in the meantime, I'm going to make this MoMo sauce. The blender's going to be a little loud, so just 1 second here for I could grind this up. Get some water. And like I said, the MoMo sauce is not Chinese. It is more Tibetan and from the Nepal region, but I like it. It goes good. You can make it thin and make it a soup and put your dumplings in there, and it's a good sauce for a good dumpling soup. What happened here? And I've already toasted the sesame and the cumin seeds. Most generally they'll use the brownish, yellowish sesame seeds, but I like black sesame. It's got a little bit stronger flavor, so that's what I am using. Okay, so that's all you do is you mix in all the ingredients in here for the MoMo sauce. You put it in the pan and you just let it cook for like 5 minutes, and it boils down and simmers down. So that is what I'm going to do just as soon as I put these other things in here and blend them up. Maybe. There we go. So this is the black sesame and the cumin seeds. This is where all the flavor comes from. Hey Terry, how you doing? Everything good up in Bellingham? Okay, now you just put that in your pan and just with a little oil, and you let it cook down, and it is a really, really flavorful sauce that goes good with these dumplings. Okay, so now that let me get this out of the way here, and then we'll get into the dough, and I'll show you what the dough looks like, and my beautiful assistant Emily will come and show us how to wrap these things, because like I said, I can't do it to save my life. Anybody have any questions? on MoMo, you put 2 cups of water or as required. It means, like I said, if you want it, for, Leslie asks, it says on the MoMo recipe, I put 2 cups of water or as required. She wants to know what the on. It all depends on what you're using it for. If you want the sauce as a soup base, then you can put into 2 cups of water or more to make it more soupy. That way you can put your dumplings in and have a soup. But if you want it as just a dipping sauce, you just can leave it with the 1/2 cup that you put into the processor with it and cook it down, and it gets a little bit thicker for a sauce to dip in. So that's what the 2 cups of water or as required was referring to. Okay, and so since I got grounder countertops, I use these for kneading dough and rolling out pins and everything, so I don't use a cutting board. But if you don't have granite countertops, it's going to be hard to clean the flour and dough off there, so I would suggest using a cutting board or something on there to do this. Okay. I got my little rolling pin in here. It's just a little bit round thing. It sort of tapers at the ends. It's a little bit bigger in the middle. Turn that down before it gets too much. Now the dough, that is a struggle. We have been making these dumplings for, well, I have, it was probably longer, but do I need to peel the ginger? You know, you can or not, Alex. It depends on whether you like it or not, but I always do peel the ginger. I don't like the little brown skin on there. But yeah, it is good. You don't have to, but I always do. Because when they're in the store and you're buying the ginger, people are touching it and feeling it, so you don't know what's on their hands. And so yeah, I always just peel the ginger. Okay, so I'm just going to dust this counter a little bit. Like I said, the granite, non-porous, so it's all good there. I love it. And the MoMo sauce is starting to boil over. Now I will get the dough. We're going to prop it like it's hot. Get that up there. And here's the dough. Like I said, you can see the dough. It's like a pizza dough. It's not like that when you put it in the bowl because the water and everything hasn't came back out. But, how you doing? But as it sets in the oil will actually absorb into the dough, and so you get a nice, flexible, pliable dough like that. And you just break it off into a chunk. Just get you a nice chunk like that, and then you can put the rest of the dough back in there and cover it back up with the towel. That way it don't dry out. And I ain't making all these because this recipe here will probably make 30 to 40 dumplings. So we're just going to make a few to show you the routine in case you have any questions or anything. But like I said, I can't wrap them. I've tried and tried and tried, and I just can't. I have, there's little cubby kids that make stuff better than I do when it comes to that. So yeah. So Emily gets to do that. But yeah, you just take that chunk of dough and you just make it into a long log like that, about, I don't know, a half inch round, just like that. You put it on the surface there and just give it a few rolls out. Yeah, I'm through with that, babe. And it's back with the old knife. And what I always do is I like to square the ends, just take off just a small little piece off the end to make it square and round. And then you want to cut this dough log into about 1/2 inch little sections. And as each cut you get, you just rotate it quarter like that. And then do another one, then roll it back. And what this does is it gives you, if you look at it, it'll give you a surface like that. I don't know if you can see it very well, but a surface like that. So when you flatten it out to roll it, it makes it easier to roll. But the dough, we've been making it for a while, and I get so frustrated sometimes because I'm the one who don't write down exactly how much I put in anything or what the temperature of the water was. And so sometimes it don't come out just right, but it still works. And so that one little log, 12 inches, 1/2 inch, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 wrappers out of that one piece. So yeah, you can freeze the dough. And another thing with the dough, Leslie asked if you can freeze the dough. Yeah, you can freeze the dough, and it's just fine if but you want to thaw it out in the ice box, or I'm sorry, in the refrigerator, and that way it thaws out nice and slow, and it don't ruin the dough. But also, if you make too much dough and you're out of meat, what you can do is you can take the same dough and you roll it up thin like a fettuccine thickness, and you slice that into noodles, boil them in hot water. Wonderful noodles. If you ever went to a Chinese restaurant and had like noodle soup, that's pretty much what you're getting. It's just dough like this, cut the noodles and cooked. So yeah, so when you get them in these little discs here, what I always do is I just use that part of my hand there, and I just give them a good flatten out like that into a little bit of this. And then in comes your little rolling pin. This is kind of, it takes a while to learn this. But if you hold it like that between just 2 fingers one side, your thumb on the other, and you want to roll the rolling pin halfway up, roll it back and then flip the dough. And you just keep doing that until you get a round wrapper that is, I don't know, about 3 to 4 inches across. And you don't have to be perfectly round because you're going to fold them up anyway. And you don't want to get them too thin. So like that, just a little wrapper. And the middle should be just a little bit thicker than the outside because you're going to put the meat on the middle of that wrapper and fold it up. So I'll do a couple more, and then my beautiful, lovely wife here will come in front of here. We got the little bamboo mats like this that we put them on, but you don't need one of them. You can put them on anything.
There's a reason why we use that.
And Emily says there's a reason why we use a bamboo mat. And what is that, baby? Come over here, tell them.
Okay. Okay, because he said you don't have to use that bamboo mat. That is true, but there's a reason why we use that. Because after this dough sat there for a while, it got sticky. So if you don't have a bamboo mat, you can use anything, but put some dried flour on there. Yeah, just to prevent it from getting sticky. That's the whole reason.
Because the bamboo mat has slits in it so that air can come up underneath the dumplings to keep it from getting sticky and sticking to everything. So I'm just going to roll out a few more here, and then Emily will come here and show you how to wrap them. Because like I said, when it comes to wrapping dumplings, I'm a 3-year-old. They're edible, but they're not the best. And if the dough is a little bit wet and you stick into your rolling pin, just flip it around and throw some flour on it, and that'll help dry it up enough. Okay, so I got 3 here rolled out here, so I'm going to let Emily come in front of the camera now and show you how to wrap these things. It's all yours, love.
Well, there are many ways you can wrap this. This is just one way I know. Well, maybe give me a spoon.
A spoon? Okay.
I think spoon is easier. So you got a little, this meat in here, put in the center.
Hey Lee, what's going on? Yeah, for each wrapper you want about a tablespoon of meat in it.
Well, alright, then I just do this in the center. Okay, see like this. Then it's done like this. Okay, I'll make another one.
Yeah, as simple as that looks, I can't do it. I've tried. This is for the mushrooms. Alex says it is for the mushrooms. You mentioned the prep you said in water for an hour. Can you repeat that part? Yeah, so the mushrooms, they are dry shiitake mushrooms that we buy. And to get them rehydrated and get them nice and soft again and edible, I put them in, I just got an electric teapot here. I heat up some water to just about boiling. And then I pour boiling water over the mushrooms in a bowl and put a plate on there. And then let them set for like an hour, and that will take and make them soft and usable again. Traditionally, they don't put mushrooms in the dumplings. That is my thing. It tastes fantastic, and her parents loved it. So her mother, last time they was here, she brought some mushrooms from China, some dried mushrooms, and she was very picky about who used them and how many people ate mushrooms. But for the dumplings, she didn't care. She loved the mushrooms in there. So yeah, so now we add the mushrooms to the dumplings.
Done.
What are you doing with... So Terry says, what are you doing with the edges of the dough other than just pinching them together? Are you also folding it in? What the technique is when you pinch it together, you just give it like a little edge with your fingertip, just a little pinch inside, just like you're imitating the fork to get in there like that, and so it holds it together a little bit better, especially if the dough came out too dry.
I'll make one.
Okay, she's gonna roll out one in and show you again here. She wants to know when you're pinching them together, are you doing anything besides pinching it?
I'll make it. This one's not good.
So yeah, for the first couple of years, it says, can Emily do another one closer to the camera?
Oh, okay. Maybe you move the
Okay, so it's going to be shaky because I'm going to bring this camera up here closer to Emily. So, so here we go. That way you can see what she's doing there.
Okay, I'll just make another this.
We're being watched by the pastor. We got to be good or we'll be excommunicated. So after we first got married and her parents started visiting us, and I started making dumplings for them. You're talking about nerve-wracking. Her dad was sitting there like a Eurasian eagle owl watching me make them. Okay, here we go.
The filling, the key is first time you do that or first few time you do that, don't put too much in there. I just put a little bit in here. Otherwise, this dumpling going to be broken. All right, here. See this? That's the first step. The center part stick together. All right. Right here.
So see, she's just pretty much pressing it together really, really nice and firm, and the dough will just combine together. There you go.
Okay, I'll make another one.
Okay, she'll do another one here. I've had lots of foster kids and a lot of people over for dinner, and we have never met anybody who did not like these dumplings. Cooked right after you make them, but as most of you know, you can also freeze them and just cook them from frozen. They are good either way. And so that is something that I can't do. I don't know why. I can make raviolis, go figure. But when it comes to making dumplings, I can't do that. And so for cooking these dumplings, you can do them two ways. The way we always do it is we boil them. And so we get a pot of hot water going on that's boiling, rapidly boiling. And then you take and you throw the dumplings. She usually puts like 25 at a time in the pot. You don't want to overcrowd it, so depending on the size of your pot. Why is Emily reject? Yeah, because some of the dough, it had a little crack right in the middle and holes in there. And so it takes too much work to get them into a nice wrappertary. And so you get a nice hot pot of water boiling, depending on the size of your pot, between 12 and 25 per batch. And once that water starts to come up and start boiling, you'll take a cup of cold water, just cold tap water.
Tempered.
And it's called tempering the water. And so once it starts to come to a rapid boil, you throw a cup of cold water in the hot pot and stop the boiling. And then let that cook until it comes to a boil again. And then you add another half a cup of water to it, cold water and boil it. And by the time that comes back up to another boil, all the dumplings should be floating to the top, and that means they are done and ready to eat. It says, Alex wants to know, it says, when you prep them for freezing, do you flour them so they don't stick? Yes, you do, Alex. You take it, what we do is we put them on just a regular plate, and we put flour over them, and we put that plate in the freezer to let them freeze before you put them in the bag. Because you put them in the bag while they're not frozen, they're going to stick together, and it's not good. So you freeze them first, then you put them in the bag, add a little bit more flour, and it keeps them from getting all nasty. Terry wanted to know what happens to the dumplings when I try to wrap them. They come apart when they're cooking for some reason. I don't know why, but they just don't work. So we end up with like a dumpling soup. You got your dumplings and you got your meatballs. It's edible, but it's not dumplings. Oh wow, Bendy is watching from Taiwan. Hi Bendy, how you doing? Wow, okay, now I'm really under pressure. Woo. So yeah, and then another way you can cook these dumplings is you can pan fry them. And the best way, say that again about the water and adding, okay.
What is them with the water?
So cooking the dumplings in the boiling water, you bring the pot of water to a boil. You put however many dumplings in there that you want. And that's going to stop the water from boiling. But once it starts to boil again, you take a cup of cold water and you pour in the pot, and that stops it from boiling. It's called tempering the water. And also you want to have your heat down to about a medium high. You don't want a full blast, but about a medium high. And so after you throw that first cup of cold water in there, it's going to stop the water from boiling. And then by the time that comes up to another boil, you add another half a cup of cold water into that pot again, and that'll stop from boiling. And by the time that comes back up to a boil, all the dumplings should be floating to the top. That means they're done. But if they're not floating to the top, add another half a cup of cold water in there and repeat that process. And then once they're floated to the top, bring them out and put them on a plate. They're going to be wet. And so after they sit on a plate for 5 minutes, if they ain't eaten by then, you might want to switch them around to another plate and then dry the plate off. Also, you don't want to stir these too much. Just put them in the pot, give the pot a shake or a little ladle to keep them from sticking to the bottom when you first put them in there. But other than that, they're pretty much let them set in that water and do their wonderfulness. And when you take them out of the pot and they're hot and you eat it, when you bite into it, there's going to be soup and juice in that dumpling, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, it's not quite that what's that Ding Tai Fung restaurant called them dumplings, baby, the soup dumplings. Well, you all know what I'm talking about. The little bit round. It's not like that, but there will be soup in them, and because that's all the flavoring and all the water that's making that broth coming out of the pork. It says Terry says he never heard of tempering the water process before. Yes, ravioli. It's beautiful for that. And then for frying these fresh ones, what you would do is you just take your pan, and you put it on your stove and get that pan nice out with some oil in it. And you want to cover the bottom of that thing so your dumplings won't stick to it. And so when that gets hot, you place your dumplings on that pan and you let them get a nice...
It look like this now.
Yeah, they look like that now. You get a nice crispy bottom on that dumpling. And you'll need a lid to cover that pan. And you take about a half a cup of water or broth, whatever you want, just liquid. You pour in that pan.
No, cold water, not
cold.
broth. Not broth.
Broth can be cold.
We don't
But cold liquid, you put a cold liquid into the pan and you put the lid on there and you don't flip the dumplings. Once they get nice and brown and a nice bottom on them, you just put the liquid in there, put the lid on there, and when all that liquid evaporates out of there, then them dumplings are done. They're steamed on top, fried on the bottom. You take them out of the pan, put them in a plate. You eat them with MoMo sauce, or traditionally in Emily's family, in my family, we use black vinegar with some garlic chili sauce and make it a little spicy, and it's just fantastic tasty. So yeah, like I said, I'm kind of sad because I don't get to eat none of these dumplings. This lockdown madness, I've got to watch my girlish figure or else I'll put on too much weight. But yeah, that is pretty much the dumplings, how to make them, and the MoMo sauce is done. Like I said, I use a black sesame because I like the black sesame flavor. It's a little bit stronger. And I will show you, I'll put it in this cup for you to see what it looks like. It's not the most pleasant thing. But if you use the brown one, it's easier. But yeah, it just looks like that. But that's because it's the black sesame, and this is for soup. It wasn't cooked down enough for the dipping sauce, but it's good for soup. Terry says, "Will you be sharing your recipes?"
What is it?
Yes, Terry. I will email you the recipe for that. You bet. That's not a problem. It's got the recipe for the MoMo sauce and the dumpling and the meat and all that good stuff there.
Just search Napoleon MoMo sauce.
And you could also, for the MoMo sauce, you could also do a Google search for either like a Tibetan MoMo sauce or a from Nepal. I can't say Nepalese sauce there, and you can find many different recipes for that. This is just the one I like. So yeah, if anybody have any questions before we sign off? Anybody totally confused? Okay, so hopefully this informs somebody about. But like I said, these are fun to make, especially you want to have friends over for dinner. You have a dumpling party. You get together, everybody does a little bit of something. You talk, you socialize while you're cooking. It is good stuff. We've had several people over for dinner, and I've always did the making. We did have Dwight over for dinner once, and Terry did do some of the dumplings, which is sort of made me feel insecure about myself because she was able to do them first try. But anyway, we ain't going to get into that. I ain't bitter at all. But yeah, it's just a good time. It's good eats. It is just good fellowship. And so that is the dumplings. Evan says, I am the best. Well, okay. Any suggestions for a good substitute for that little rolling pin? You know, you can use any rolling pin, I guess, to roll them out. I just get something because it's easier because I can use it with one hand and don't have to do all this. So one hand, I mean, you could probably use it like a tortilla press if you have one. I don't know.
Remember you used to use a big one?
But I used to use the big one, but I still have to use the one hand because you got to roll them out. and flip the dumpling. But I do have the old school, you know, the handle and the rolling pin type thing like that. You can use a glass jar. Oh yeah, here it is.
How you used to do use this one.
This one here is this one's quite difficult, but with practice.
Well, you made a tool, right? At the same time.
Yeah, and so I would put them down, and I would make two of them and go like that, and just do the old-fashioned thing. You can make more at once, but I like doing it with a small one. It's relaxing. It's a good, you know, workout for your shoulders and the muscles. So, but anyway, that is enough. That is dumplings. Of course, everybody knows who I am and where I'm from and all my messaging. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Email me, text me, message me, whatever. So thanks. This was fun. Hope you guys actually make some dumplings and enjoy them. See you later. Oh, Terry says, where do I find the little rolling pin? Yeah, you can find it at the Great Wall Mall, at Kent or H Mart in Federal Way. They have these. The mushrooms I bought are already soft. We good? Yeah, you can use them. That is perfectly fine, Alex. It just when the mushroom is dried, especially the shiitake, it intensifies the flavor. Because I don't like mushrooms at all, but I like the dried ones in the soup and stuff like this. So yeah, you can use any mushroom. You can even use candy cream mushroom soup, but you don't tell me about it because I won't be your friend anymore. But anyway, yeah, that's dumplings. What is the name of the wine? Oh, the wine, it is...
Just cooking one.
It is called Shaoxing Rice Cooking Wine. We buy this at the Asian market. It costs like $3 a bottle. It is 15% alcohol by volume. But trust me, you don't want to try a sip of this wine because it will turn your stomach inside out. It's strictly for cooking. There's no sugars in there. It's just rice wine, and it is really, really good. I use it for all of our cooking. For when I make eggplant, tomato, or any Asian dish, you're usually going to find this in there. So yeah, it's good stuff. And if you want, we go Asian market do our shopping. If you ever want us to pick you up something from the Asian market, just message us and we'll be happy to get it for you. Or you can come with us to the Asian market and learn where it's at and all that good stuff. So just let us know. I believe, Jeanette, this will be on Facebook after it's over, so you can watch it then. But I'm bummed too. I was going to give you a hard time if you showed up. But anyway, that is what we have for today. Any last final questions? Yeah, everybody take care and God bless.